Hello there, it's Jo and this is Private Practice, coming to you live from Purple Cove HQ, where I usually come from, on Tuesday, the 8th of May 2018. And yes, I still do need to look at my calendar every day to see if the date has changed from when I started working this morning. But sometimes I feel like I work so hard and so fast that possibly there has been some bizarre vortex and I am going to wake up in the year 2025. Not sure. So how's your day been? What have you been focused on today? Well, I'm just going to share with you a couple of things that I've learned today. I've learned that I got distracted this morning when I was doing my hair and my makeup, and I haven't actually gone back to finish either of those two things since breakfast this morning, which happened at around 7:30 a.m. So yeah, it's been pretty much head down, bottom up kind of day. Additionally, I learned something new today. Don't know if anyone else here has started drinking bone broth. Anyone know what I'm talking about with bone broth? Hey, Jen, thank you for turning up. Thank you. So bone broth is this new phenomenon that's supposed to be really good and very healthy and nourishing for your belly. And I want to be healthy and nourished in my belly. And I must admit, I did have some a couple of weeks ago that a friend of mine made for me. And wow, I felt amazingly different. So I discovered on the weekend that you can buy it pre-made. Thank you to the awesome Kylie Worry who helped me understand that. So I had some delivered today and I discovered something about bone broth. Don't drink it cold. Simples. Just don't. So you know how you'll leave a coffee mug or a mug of tea beside you and you'll come back to it and you'll take a sip of it and you'll go, oh, that's not great, but I can still drink it. You cannot do that with bone broth. You know very, very quickly that that is not something that you need to drink cold. So there you go. That's a public service announcement for today. Don't try and drink bone broth cold. Okay, moving on from that. So today I got stuck into working on my book, The Entrepreneurial Clinician, and I was learning about what evidence-based practice really is as opposed to the morphed public perception that is sometimes around. And I know that I can open up a whole can of worms about talking about evidence-based practice and what it is and what it isn't. But a reflection that I've had that's been really interesting is that evidence-based practice needs to include the totality of evidence. So it's not just a randomized controlled trial or some sort of focus group. It needs to be the totality of all evidence that's available. We can't possibly understand the totality of all the evidence that's available. But what we can rely on is evidence-based research, is well-researched research, so empirical data. We can rely on statistics, we can rely on the experiences that we've had with other clients, and we can rely on lived experience, such as our own experiences. But it's putting all of those things together that help to form a body of evidence. And then I was reading about how evidence-based practice became a thing, something that we talked about in the 1990s. And then I thought about the rate of change that we have actually had occurring since then. So just talking about health and medicine and wellness, we now have this whole industry called wellness and health, not just absence of disease or disease management or illness or recovery. It's about wellness. And the medical advances, let alone climate change or personal development or technological change that we've seen since 1990 have been huge and phenomenal and fast. I don't know about you, but I struggle to keep up with technology changes in my day-to-day life. Every time Google releases another change, or Facebook releases another change, or the GDPR releases another list of rules that we need to comply with, I kind of freak out because the rate of change is huge. So if we're waiting for somebody to do the research and create the empirical evidence for us, by the time that gets published, the data will be old because change is happening at such a rapid rate. There's some thoughtfulness for you around evidence-based practice. But that being said, we kind of need to draw on the evidence of others when we're learning how to build a business, right? So I think you know by now that I am not a prescriber in terms of you need to follow this specific system in this specific way and say these specific things to get a business success. Hey, Adele, nice to have you. My sister, Adele. I get excited when she turns up. And Nicola, you've turned up too. Yay, thank you. Where was I going? So I don't prescribe that you do these specific things in this specific way at this specific time to create this specific business. To me, that's not a business. That's something else. And I was going to use the word, but I won't use it because I might offend people. Anywho, my passion is to help people learn how to think, not what to think. So if we're not getting into our heads that we can learn from the experience of others, but we don't have to have their specific experience for things to still be okay and for us to still experience success, then we've kind of missed the point. So I learn from the experience of others all the time. Like I've shared with you quite openly Nicola's experience and how she helps me with my copywriting. I've shared with you other mentors and professionals that I've got in my world. I don't know how to write a book. I don't know how to edit a book. That's why I brought Kelly on board into my world. I don't know how to do a functional task analysis. So that's why I bring OTs into my world. I don't know how to help people repair their diet. So that's why I would bring a nutritionist into my world. So I don't have to know everything, but I can learn from the evidence and experience of others. So I want to encourage you this afternoon. I want you to do a bit of a thought-provoking process around where do you learn from? I know that sounds a bit ridiculous, like who do you learn from, but where are these people found? Because if we're clinicians in private practice and all we're doing is learning from other clinicians in private practice, we're creating a really, really small pool of resource. And yes, there's people like me and people like other coaches out there who have a lot to offer you, but I can assure you, those of us who have done something significant, those of us who are walking our walk and our talk around building a successful private practice, we've actually gone and resourced ourselves elsewhere outside of just clinicians in private practice. And I think that's a really important point to make. My very, very first business mentor had nothing to do with health. Now that was a little dangerous for me because I didn't know what I didn't know. And there were some recommendations about marketing that were unprofessional, unethical, and could have gotten me into a lot of trouble. But in saying that, we're all smart people and we all know how to apply due diligence. We all know how to ask for help so we can actually mitigate any risks that might come up. But just think about where you could learn from. I've learned from incredibly fabulous people like Rachel Dunn and Michael Hole from Girl Director. Nothing to do with health. They help people create incredible videos. I've learned from my husband. He's not a health professional, but he has created this great method of helping us integrate our whole life into a life so that I don't have to run around feeling compartmentalized all the time. Like today I will do leisure and tomorrow I will do rest and then I will do family, because I tend to get a little bit rigid like that at times. I have learned from insurance and claims professionals. I have learned from artists. Oh gosh, I've learned from these great artists in my world. I have learned from writers. I have learned from marketers, and I have learned from people who have built a business that I really didn't understand what it was they were doing at the time, but that's okay. They helped me think. Get yourself around a CFO. If you want to learn how to think differently in your business, especially if you are now scaling up and you've gotten to a point where you've got lots of moving parts and lots of transactions occurring, hang around a general manager or a CFO and learn how to think differently. So there we go. Today I have learned some significant things. And just recapping for anybody who didn't catch the beginning of the video, don't try and drink bone broth cold, but spend some time. Where do you learn from? Who do you learn from? What types of skill sets have you learned from? I reckon we've got an incredibly diverse pool of knowledge out there that we can all draw upon and learn from and be excited by. So this is Private Practice. I'm Jo Muirhead, and I look forward to talking to you later this week.